What is up everybody, it is me DevilNeverCry, and in today's video we're going to be going over my top tips for excelling with V. I'll be going over my top tips to survive DMD and hell with V, as well as what helped me get those coveted S ranks. So without further ado, let's just dive right in. The first tip I have is to rebind the controls. Simply put, you want to be able to simultaneously attack with both Shadow and Griffin, and the standard control scheme doesn't really allow you to do that quite easily, so I'd suggest mapping the Griffin or the Shadow function over to a trigger. In fact, you can map both of them to each trigger. This not only allows you to attack simultaneously, but it'll also allow you to charge certain attacks whilst being able to keep up the offense with the other familiar. The next tip I'd suggest is using the charge attacks frequently. Not only do the charge attacks hit multiple enemies, but they do large amounts of damage and boost your style gauge quite high. One simple strategy I like to employ is to charge both of Shadow and Griffin's attacks, letting them go at the same time, allowing you to stack damage, hit multiple enemies, and massively increase your style gauge. Of course, this is a bit risky, as you won't be able to use your familiars whilst you charge. Another tip I'd highly suggest, and is what got me essentially through Dante Must Die and Hell with no damage, is to manipulate the camera. For those of you who don't know, enemies in DMC won't attack unless they are on camera. There only has to be a sliver of their body for them to start an attack animation, but provided they're not on camera at all, they're neutered. They won't be attacking you, instead they'll be focusing on getting on camera so that they can start an attack animation. You can take advantage of this, seeing as Shadow and Griffin don't need to be locked onto anything to attack. You can put V in a corner, turn the camera away, and mash to your heart's content. Now of course this won't be stylish, but if you're focused on getting those no damage multipliers, stylish points won't matter because you'll be getting the S rank regardless. Moving on to the next tip is don't be afraid to augment both Griffin and Shadow's attacks. By pressing the D-pad and either the melee or gun button, you'll essentially be able to augment either Shadow or Griffin. This essentially means that they'll attack automatically by themselves, but the more important thing is the fact that this actually augments the damage they do, increasing it. Of course, you can still input certain moves in this way, so one simple strategy people like to use is to input a move, and then before the move connects they'll end up, augmenting Shadow or Griffin, meaning the attack will do more damage. The next tip I'd like to talk about pertains to Nightmare. For those of you who don't know, summoning Nightmare will essentially instantly revive any and every stalemated familiar on the battlefield. Of course, you'll be used to seeing stalemated familiars because the enemies on Dante Must Die do a lot of damage, and on Hell your familiars die in one hit. So do be sure to save Devil Trigger to instantly revive your familiars, which can essentially get you out of a sticky situation quite easily. At the same time, summoning Nightmare does a lot of damage provided Nightmare attacks when he spawns in. This can be a simple but effective way to whittle down a boss's health, seeing as the summon/spawn animation does quite a lot of damage. The last tip I want to cover with V here is to read from his book as frequently as possible. Not only does it provide a nice style gain provided you do it around enemies, but it constantly recharges your Devil Trigger. So this allows you to summon Nightmare in and keep him in for an extended period of time by constantly reading. This allows you to also augment either Shadow or Griffin's attacks should you choose to do so, as you gain Devil Trigger quite rapidly. And that about wraps it up for V. To be honest, there aren't many game-breaking strategies for him. There is no equivalent to Dante's Real Impact or Nero's Ragtime. You simply have to grit your teeth and find your way through the game. He's the character that, to be honest, I struggled the most with, simply because there weren't a lot of things that you could do that could put him in an advantageous position. But thankfully, he's the character that you play the least amount of missions with in the game, so you don't have a lot to suffer through. But as I mentioned, that's going to wrap it up for now. Subscribe and stay tuned for more DMC content, as of course there is more on the way. With all that said and done, it has been me, DevilNeverCry. I would like to thank you for watching, and as always, I'll see you next video.